Hey guys, um, hope all's going well. I'm publishing the week 14 lesson today, which is due to be watched by you all on Tuesday, which is 2 days from now. So I'm publishing it a little bit early for those of you that might be working ahead. Also wanted to get it done and out of the way, so it's kind of a big one. So but I've given you a lot of code samples, so hopefully it's not that bad. Um, this one is a little bit different, but basically on this one, and I'll shrink down me. I'm saying hi and bless y'all, and I hope you guys are having a good spring. Um, not going to class, I know, is a lot different. One of the things I was talking about with some people today is that we don't have the collaboration that we used to have. To when we got in the classroom on Tuesday morning, we could actually sit there and ask questions. And when we were all together, it kind of got the brain juices flowing about programming, and I think it helped a little bit. So digging it out from your toenails on the videos here um, is a little bit tougher. Please remember, feel free to use GroupMe. Please feel free to Skype with me, submit your code, whatever. But I've Skyped with several students, and it's been good. It's a real quick and easy way if I'm sitting here working on something else, just to get with you and get some things fixed. So those things are available. So there's a way that we can get that whole mental process going. So let's go ahead and do that. You all know where you're at. I pretty much know where everybody's at. So um, uh, this is really our last major lecture. I want to say it's been a wonderful school year working with you all, and want to just really thank you all for sitting through the class this year. There might be one little supplement that I do on the end of this, but we'll just see if you guys get through 14 first, all right? So what's today's lesson? Well, we're going to take Mr. Tim here, and we're going to shrink him down in the corner. You're going to put me up here. All right, so we'll get my screen going. All right, here's our screen. We modified it last week. There was a supplement this week for you guys saw the 3D paint that I put up before. Make sure you review that because you're going to see some changes in the third level course. But one of the things that we've added, last week we added score. Well, score is a really nice thing. It kind of lets you know how you done by some arbitrary rules that we've come up with, right? I gave you guys some arbitrary rules. I said gas cans are worth this and finishing the course is this. And hopefully you got that working to where we can just. But this week we're going to add this high score. So what does that do as far as the game go? Especially like let's say if we were pumping little advertisements down here in this corner right here, or even advertisements up here because we're selling advertisements on our game and people are downloading it. Advertisers want to know how much you're watching the game, how much you're playing the game, hours played. So if you can say, well, my game has been bought by 3 million people and I have documentation that they watched for, let's say 20 million hours last week. Everybody played 2 hours apiece on average. And here's all the documentation and here's all their background. And they'll look at that and they'll say, okay, well, if we can get, 10 minutes of every hour, then we will pay you X amount. And then you have a web resource that grabs that advertisement and pulls it in, unless, they paid for the game to be advertisement free. So those are just, we see these 500,000 users that look at Home Depot and Lowe's, and so we want them to look at our products also for gardening. And so, and we see, so people that put stuff on your games have all this data, and data miners mine through it all. And so right now, this game, as you will know, is just a game. The people that would buy it or want it, which I don't know if they would or would not. Um, but anyway, we got score working, and what we're gonna do today is we're gonna go ahead and get this high score working because we need, you know, well, I won last time, but I could win better. I can do it more efficiently. I can pick up more stuff, or we can add more levels. So what you want to do is you want the game to be recreation for your user and revenue for you. And then after they play 3 levels, let's say you deliver it like this with 3 levels for free. You update the graphics a little bit like what we talked about the other night, and there's some other things we could do to make this packageable. But you want them to keep playing, and they're like going, well, that was kind of a cool game. And then you pop in a little advertisement. Here's levels 4 through 10 for 99 cents. And then they type in all their information, and they can get kind of like the whole Angry Birds model. That game had like 50 levels, and you would buy them as you needed them. And so by the time you got all 50 levels like Angry Birds, I think you ended up paying $15 for the entire game. I mean, and they made money hand over fist on that game because the guys that wrote it were like going, we were hoping maybe 50,000 people would download it, and they ended up doing addendums to it and Angry Birds 1, 2, and 3, and they made a sweet chunk of cash on that. But they built a model, and so we built a model. There's things and ways to improve on it, which I hope to possibly teach on next semester. We'll see how this whole coronavirus thing goes. So anyway, here's this. I wanted to show you what we've done here and what our first object is that when we start playing the game, once it loads, you'll notice that once you got 100 points here, automatically it knows that we're in first place with high score. I reset everything, and that's why it does that, and I'll show you why it does that. Actually, it took me about 5 or 6 hours to code all this stuff, and I even had a little bit of help from my other son that's in college. But I wanted it to be real time so they could see themselves moving up. And I tried to just code it and slap it in there, and it didn't work. And so I'll show you what we had to do to get that done. But there's the code. So first of all, I knew that we had a high score, and then we had 4 labels. I knew that the high score is just a label. I just put letters there. You could put a big sign there, high score. It could be flashing, kind of like you could have 2 high score JPEGs. You could have it flashing right there. This is a high score over here, and give people more of a reason to play. Okay? So, because you want them to have good recreation, you want them to be able to set a goal. And so we have high score over there. So we had to do a couple of things. The first thing we had to do is, one, I found that to fix, if we set direction equal to 0 in between levels, and when we crash in those code sections there, or when we run out of gas, when we get to level 3, then the bouncing car isn't as bad. I still might fix that field and republish that field, but we'll talk about that maybe. Okay, so if you win, set direction 0 before going to the next field. We'll stop the car from going spastic on field 4, I think. Still testing, but I've had relatively good luck with it unless I'm hitting the wrong key, starting out with the wrong key. Um, the field I captured out of 3D Paint is out there. It's called field4b.bmp. That field is out there if you want to include it in your new field 4. I did do some 3D graphics with it, so and that's the resulting field that we grabbed out of 3D Paint. Um, the first thing we had to do, and I want to show you this, is the first thing we had to do on top of creating the labels and stuff like that. I was in there creating labels, and I was really bad on this. I mean, I don't really necessarily like the way this came about, but the first thing I realized we needed to do was you have to have a way for the game to end. I mean, if you're going to have a high score, the way we had it, you got to level 3 and you just kind of stayed there at level 3. It's like, okay, you get to level 3, you play it once, and then you're done. Okay? And this code can easily get tweaked to handle in levels, but down here, when we incremented the level, which is in my code, here's all the initialization of objects and stuff like that. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump down here and show you. So this is the whole thing. Check if we won. So they're at the finish line. We found a 3. This is all down in check objects. And then we said if the level is less than 3, then we're going to add 1 to the level. So if the level is 1, 2, 1 or 2, we're going to go ahead. If it's 1, we're going to make it 2. And then we're going to display that level. Else, so that means since we're counting from 1 and going to 2 and then going to 3, else we want to say hooray, game finished. Okay, so I modified the message, hooray, game is finished, so let's play again. And if they say okay, I sent the level back to 0, I set the scores back to 0, I pumped the score out, I pumped the level out. I don't pump the score out. I should pump the score out. I don't put that in there right away. I should have pumped that out, but when you start playing, it does reset. But after I sent the score to level, I should be pushing that out. And we might grab that code there on line 637 to pump score out. Let's remember where that is. So I had to add this logic that says, okay, if you get the 3 and you win, you go back to 0. And it's on the else. Hang on, pump score. So we got to pump that score out in 637. Just a little note. I'm like going, if you have 4 levels, if you decided to leave the original first level, now you have 4 levels, and this is going to be less than 4. If you have 20 levels, then this is less than 20, and then on the 20th level, you roll it through. Well, Mr. Tim, you might say there's only 4 levels out there. Well, yeah, but we've talked about multiple things. Is a level, each level has the same field, but you can move the gas cans around in different locations. And so that makes it a different challenge to go find the gas cans. Also, if you added that field that I recommended and you actually have the timeout set, you could have it get a little faster and faster and faster and faster and move the gas cans around and stuff like that. And so let's say we have 4 fields, and let's say we tweak another field to have 5 fields, and we move the gas cans around and you run through some of the other ones again. So like you do the same field for round 1 and 2, but the gas can in round 2 is more challenging, then you can really easily develop 10 fields. You see what I'm saying? and graduate your user up. Um, and So that's an idea. Okay, so we'll just leave that to whatever creative license you guys want to do with this thing. There's more that you can do with this, but we're doing just for 3 levels because we can get all the functionality working with 3 levels and make sure everything works with 3 or 4 levels. And then if we want to go out and design 10 more levels, we can do that pretty quickly, and then minor code changes, right? And then do gas can placements and let it run. It should be a real easy addition. Okay, so step 1, add this code, modify and tweak this code. Notice that we're setting play and direction to 0 when we go back. Uh, there's this thing called place. Now, this is a new variable. You guys don't know where this is, but whenever you start the game, you start in 6th place. Because I just have you, there's the top 4, 5th, 6th. So you're always starting in 6th place before you come up on the screen. And we'll explain what that is for, because we have to double check some things. But first, okay, so we finish the game. Um, Up in the display in the other section up here, um, we had made no changes in Let's Play Refresh. So I'm going to minimize that right there. Watch me get in trouble. So then we created, might be minor changes in Let's Play Net, but we'll minimize that. Uh, so we created the 4 labels and the heading, and so you can see me creating high score as just a static high score here, okay? And then I just massage the numbers to where it would fit, and then you see score 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll get to this line 468. We'll cut this one loose here in a little bit, but I want to show you where it gets. So, and then I put an array in. Now I want to go over this because I'm a little bit of a chicken on certain things on arrays. And I didn't modify L result at all for this part of the exercise. We just touched static controls. And really we just added the Windows controls. And we did do a little bit with this, but I want to show you guys this. I want to take high scores, which is an array of 7. Well, Mr. Tim, you're only displaying 4. Well, yes, but I have room on either end to shuffle. So it starts counting at 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it gives us a total of 7 slots. I don't use 0 and I don't use 7. I use 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what that does is it kind of protects me from data bugs. If there's a bug in how we're handling high scores, high scores isn't really necessarily a super high priority, and if it's a rare data bug, that's fine. But I leave myself kind of a safety buffer. I don't use 0 and I don't use the last one, because all you want is somebody playing a game and they're hot and heavy into the game and they hit some section of code that you weren't expecting them to hit for whatever reason, and they're like at level 17 and they're looking at playing against their friend, a new high score that they want to snap with their iPhone, and all of a sudden, the game goes halt, Stack Overflow error, because you went to -1 or you went to 8. And so I'm using 5. I got a spare 1 on either side. That's all that's for. And we're creating place. We're initially, and then high names. That's if we want to add a list of high names that are strings. Those should be strings. So we're going to play with those maybe later. I keep saying later, but there's several things that I want to do later, but this is officially the last class, so we might sneak a couple small supplements in this week, so be looking for those. but I just want you guys to have all that you need to get this done. Um, so let's go look at the code. So now we have our score calculation function. I'm going to go down here and look at that. This is um, kind of interesting. I'll show you this. When we got done with this, we almost broke 1,000 lines of code this semester. Not quite, 930 lines, but almost 1,000 lines of C++ code to make a game. So a little bit more complex than Snake. And we played a lot of time playing Snake when we didn't feel like doing homework. So this is better than Snake in my opinion. So, but that, of course, that's just my opinion. Okay, so we've got the gas can code, and we have touch objects down here. And then last week we did update score. Well, what I'm doing now is in update score we had this code before. So every time we update score, if someone's fighting their way up the list, let's say, okay, I have 9 high scores and I'm in 4th place. All right, I'm going to keep playing. Oh, I'm in 3rd place. They want to see those flip. You with me? And so as they're playing, we want them to be able to see where they're at with high score. Right now we're just doing it with scores and we're not doing it with their names. But this is the code we wrote last week for score. But I have another function, another logic here called update. And update is created, it's just a local variable inside the update score function. We added that this week. But we also have this array of, in this other integer called sc loop. Now, sc loop is going to start in the place we're at. We're going to start in 6th place. The array is 7. We can start in 6th place. And we're going to go from that place. We're going to go until sc loop is greater than equal to 1. So we're going to start from the place you're at and look up to first, including first place. So we're counting backwards from the bottom of the loop. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're out. Okay, so we're just going sc loop minus minus. Okay, now, I got in a bunch of trouble with this because I'm writing a new procedure and I'm trying to test it with the GUI. Well, one of the things I told you guys early on in the semester was it's always nice to write complex code in console mode and test it first. Well, I try to write this thing without doing that because, you know, I'm smart, right? Didn't work. So what I did is I took the function that I tried to write and I threw it down here in update score. I just threw it in a brand new console program. I got rid of I had all these message boxes and all these sounds in here popping up. I had to comment those out when I went back to console mode, but I had to replace them with all these couts commands. And then, so, again, you can see the same logic that we're going up through here. Of course, you see all these debugging comments that I was trying to figure out. So, now, we start at the place we're at. So, we start out in 6th place and we're going up. Now, let me show you what this does. I'm going to slide this over here. All right, and I'm going to bring the console code over here. Because all it says, what place are we in? So I'm just simulating production, okay? And my score is 200. Okay, it says your place is now 1. Because anything greater than a 0 will give you a 0 point. First place. And at that point, all we want to do is make sure is if I say, now let's say this time my place was again 6th place and I got 100 points. So let's just say so now I'm in 2nd place. So if I'm in second place and my score goes to 250, notice that 250 and 200 now switch right here. You see, 100 and 200 were here. I was in second place. When I tell them I'm in second place, I tell them I was here. And it going through the array and says you were here, but now you're here. And when I run display score, it says 200 is moved down to second place and 250 is down in first place. If I was in sixth place, playing the game again, and I had 100 points, then I would be in third place in this configuration. But if I'm in third place and I get another trash gas can, I would be moved up. But I hit 2 hay bales, so now I'm at 180. And then I finally win the game and I get 700 points for winning that level. Okay, so that's going to blow up my testing, and because I typed 700 for place. But you get an idea of how this code is working. You have to type in place and see how it works. And let me hit stop on that. Because here's the deal. What I noticed was now we're going to start in where we're at, going up. And we're going to say if the place we're at, first we're going to say, got to remember, we're passing in add score, but over here, notice we're saying score. I had to modify it over here to actually work because this is only run like to test it. And I'll show you how we tested it. So we take our score and we see if the score that we have is greater than, here's the score we have because we've just added what we've earned to our score. If our score is greater than the level that we're on, then, so if we look at our score, and let's say we're in sixth place. Okay, so we're starting the SC loop in sixth place. If our score is greater than that, and let's say, if our place is not equal to SC loop, if we're in sixth place already, then we're just going to update sixth place. Okay. Now, let's say we get to 5, and our score is still higher than fifth place. Then, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take scores of SC loop plus 1. I'm going to take the one that we're on, and I'm going to, which is the one below me, because if I'm at 5, plus 1 is 6. So I'm going to take the one below me, the one I'm on, and I'm going to shove it down. So here's the one we're on. We're going to take fifth place and shove it down to 6. And then we're going to put our score in sixth place. In fifth place. Does that make sense? Now, if that was third place, and let's say, and here's the rub. If place is equal, so let's say if we're in third place. Let's say if we're in third place and our score is higher than it was last time that we're already here. If we're in third place, it's because our score is already sitting in third place. So if we're in third place and we beat the score in third place, we only update the score in third place. If we're already there, we update the score in third place. Now, then we go back through the loop. If it becomes 2 because we're going up, now let's say we look at our score and our score is actually higher than it is than what it was in second place. So now we're higher than second place. We're going to take the second place score because we're on the second place score, and we're going to move it down to third place, and we're going to put our score in that place, and we're going to say our place is equal to 2. So we're going to change our place from 3 to 2. But we only want to do the swap if we change places. You with me? Let's see how this runs. I'm going to run the test thing over here. I'm going to run it and pay attention to what I'm doing. We start in 6th place. I'm going to close this because I had to grab a test deck. And so here's my test deck. I set this all initial to 0 so it would work initially. But let's say we have a list of scores. And I'm going to initialize this array to these scores. Now I know I'm not using 500 and I'm not using 20. So I know I'm using the ones in the middle. And so these really don't matter. But I just put them there just in case. So those are all zeros. So I'm just using the ones in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, let's roll this. All right. So now we have it initialized. Now I'm going to say I'm in 6th place and my score is 100. Let's say I hit a hay bale because I want to pick a score that's not in the list so I can see exactly where I'm at. Now that should land me in 4th place. And sure enough, you'll see 400, 300, 200, 190. So it landed me in 5th place and it knocked 50 off the list. You with me? Okay, now I'm going to say I'm in 5th place still. And now I'm going to say I'm at 150. So that should move 100 down and put me in 4th place. 100 is moved down and now I'm in 4th place. So I'm in 4th place. Now, since I'm already in 4th place, if I get to 170, I should still be in 4th place, but my status in the list should update. You with me now? We're working from the bottom up. So let's see if I hit, now I'm still in 4th place. So I tell it I'm in 4th place. And let's see, I finish the course and I get 300 points total now. Well, we want to use something different, 320. So we can see where we're at. So now 170 should move us to 2nd place because we're less than 400, and sure enough, we're in 2nd place. And let's say we get some more points, so we move to 350, but we want to say 2nd place, don't mess up the test, and we want to get the 350. That should not switch any numbers, but just update our number. That's this code. It took me forever to get this, that we only do the swap if our place has changed as we go through this loop, starting at the place we're at. Because if we're already in 3rd place, we don't have to see anything above us. We just need to say, did we beat if we're on the place we're at, if we're on 3rd place, let me update my score. If we have, after I update my score at 3rd place, if I beat 2nd place, let's pull down 2nd place to 3rd place, and let me put my score in 2nd place, and let's change my place to 3 to 2. That's what this code does. But this is the thing of why I had to put that variable place in the game, because I had to initialize that to level 6. And so we start at the bottom and work our way up. So when we play the game now, and this code is active, you can actually see I actually have 200 points. And so that's just going to go on up. And I won right there because I'm just that good. And now I got 982 points, and that's high score. And once you get that high score, it updates immediately. If I lose points, ooh, that was kind of cool, wasn't it? Anyway, um, yeah, that's just interesting code. Gotta love the glitch. Benjamin will show me a glitch video. So that was 982 points. And now look, my score is 700 points. But my high score is still 982. It would be nice if we could actually say, 123 has high score 982. But we get into some display issues there. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But we're just showing how we can get this going. Right. So I finished the level. Now I have 2,000 points. That's all good. That's all good. So that's how that works. But the question is, what if we go ahead and win? Now, if you guys get really bored of this, this is YouTube, so I know what a fast forward key looks like. So I'm just going to go down and win this field really quick. First, I was going to go down and win it really quick. But once you finish the field, then what you find out is this score gets saved now. Well, it doesn't get saved yet because we haven't saved the score. But this code right here that actually took me somebody else looking over my shoulder on. So we create high scores equals to 7, and we actually have to create another int called place, and its initial value is equal to 6, and we saw that in there. And we created 4 window handles because we're only watching 1 through 4 places, and then we created all of these. You get code for the first 2. You have to build scored second, third, and fourth. Just build the window handles. Let's copy this, change the location. That's all there. All right. So here is the gift of. So then we had to stop the game, right? So in the worksheet here is actually the code that the else statement is here. The game is finished. Some other stuff changed up here. I thought for sure the things I was testing, I set the direction equal to 0, and a couple other things, and this changes to an else. So understand that this is probably the only code you might need. It just depends how you've modified this up above. All right, so that's how you end the game. If you're going to have a high score, you have to find a place in the game. We ended it here at the end of the 3rd level, and that's controlled by this logic right here. And the else, because it's like, okay, if you're not less than 3, then you are 3 and you're done with it. Unless we add models, then you need another value right there. So it's not necessarily cut and paste code. It just depends what you guys are doing. All right? You with me? All right. Let's keep on rolling on down here. Now, okay, we have a place to put a high score. We have a way to end the game, but we have to keep them updated. Well, I changed another procedure, and here's what it looks like now. And that's when I took update score with add scored. This is the code that we're used to, but I added these 2 variables to it here. So I added the loop because we have to count through that score array right now. Okay, and we can do that with a local variable. We don't need a global variable for a loop. And then an update flag. Did we update it? Because we only wanted the overhead of shoving it out to the window screen if there was an actual update within the array. So update is set to 0. And then we go through this whole code that I just walked through. And if we fall in here and they've actually updated the score and you actually have a high score, if we fall inside the loop, if we've changed the place, or we've just updated the score because we may not have changed place. We might just be updating the score. We're going to say, we're going to set update to 1. So if anything goes on inside there, we're going to just set update to 1. And once we're out of the loop, you have to make sure that this goes to this. Once we're out of the loop, then we're going to call a function called display scores. Now, display scores gets called from a couple different places, okay? And so we will discuss that here in a little bit. But all display scores is, it's, again, remember to throw your prototype code up there, void display scores with a semicolon. All we're doing is taking the score out of the first position array and sending a message to that window handle. Okay? Now, if you want to hear something funny, is that if you take these two characters out right here, and it looks like that, it doesn't know this is this. It still compiles, which blows my mind. It still compiled. The compiler didn't get it. It still compiles. And I was like, oh my goodness, my scores aren't updating. What's wrong with my array? And it turns out, as I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked, none of this was running down here. I had a pop sound down here because I was looking for this thing to run and I wasn't hearing no pop sound. So I'm like going, something's wrong. And I finally looked at it and I mean, guys, if you've wasted an hour looking for a semicolon, I can tell you I've wasted, it took me about an hour or so yesterday to get this working up here correctly. I wrote it first in my project because I just started messing around with it, and then I had to pull it all out to a separate program and run it. And even after I copied it out of here and put it back in my code, I found more bugs, and so I went back to my test code, especially that whole context of place. What's your score? What place you're at? Do we need to just update your current number where you're at, or the place? And we got that working, and I went through lots and lots of testing to where it's like, okay, it's working, but then I would have to play the game over and over and over again, and once the game died, I would lose all my scores. I'm like going, that's no fun, because I have to finish all 3 levels to keep a score, and then I have to start the next level to have second place. And so I was like going, okay, that's nice, but if mom says stop it and close that game and get on your homework, well, I just lost all my scores and I was working towards a high score and da-da-da-da. And okay, this game, we save our high scores, okay? Well, how do we save them? Well, to be honest with you, that's the bulk of the lesson. We used ofstream before to input from a file. IF is input from. OF is output to, basically, ofstream. And so ofstream and ifstream are both available to us based upon the functions that we've already included. And what we would need to do is we need to be able to save scores. Okay? So we have 2 more functions we need to write. Okay? And one of them is save scores. So I'm like going, well, if I'm going to display scores, if I get down into display scores, I'm going to save them. What you think? What did my code do? Well, let's go over here and look at display scores. Okay, this is my prototype. So let me get my prototype out of the way. Otherwise, this is just going to confuse us and take up real estate here that we don't want. Okay, so here's our actual code, the test harness code. And okay, so if I go back in here, I look at display scores. Every time we display a score, I am saving the scores. Okay? Now, we don't want to, actually, when I display scores, let me show you this. When I display scores, I don't want to save the, if update, I display and save scores. So I don't need to do it twice. And I do it up there for a reason, is because display scores, when we first come in and run the game and we initialize the, we put the 4 window handles on there for the 4 scores, then we just run display scores. And so we can display scores when we first initialize, and we can display scores when we do this. So we display scores, but actually all we do from up there is, so this is every time everything changes, right here, this means something's happened in the high scores in our function that we just added. We just walked through this code. I just didn't show you this one line. I showed you display scores, where we're shoving all this code into the window handles. And that should be on that Word document, because this is all new. All these are new. So if we go up here and look, here's your display scores. But if we update it, we run display scores. Well, when I got into writing the rest of this, I have to, after I run display scores, I'm going to save them. So every time the player earns any points, not only are we going to update the high scores over here in the swim lane in the game, but we're actually going to write it out to a disk. Now let's look at how this works, because this is really the only thing that is new programmatically that we've never done before in the class. Okay? So I want to go through save scores. We have the same integer that we need for SC loop. We're just initializing this variable. So we say ofstream is our output stream, and we say we're calling it my file. Okay, I could call it scores file, but I call it my file because that's the example I found online. So that's the code I stole. That happens sometimes in programming, right? And so then I loop through all the scores, starting at the first score. Again, I'm not using 0. I'm just leaving it there. I'm going to 6, and I'm writing out to my file an inline SC loop end. Well, what does that look like? Well, this file gets created in our repos directory for class Win09. When this code executes and creates my file, scores.txt, I see this little file right here called scores.txt. And it probably just updated right now with my last score, and the rest of them are obviously 0. Well, why are they all 0? Well, the reason why they're all 0 is because I wanted to show you what the game looked like before we added this part. But if we save the scores, saving the scores is really easy. We're outputting our score for that file with a carriage return, and we're sending it to my file. It's almost like a cout, but my file, because we said ofstream is my file, we're physically writing data to my file. Okay? Now we can do other things with my file, and if we have to debug complex stuff, sometimes we'll do an ofstream to write to a debug log that says I'm here, and here's what the critical values are. And then all we have to do is pull the debug log into an Excel spreadsheet and go like, oh, okay, here's what happened. So as we get into more complex debugging, we will be using these to write debug logs, and we'll have standard debug logs that we write and certain things that get hashed out. But this is your first output file. So it writes it out, and it writes it out once. But why don't we go ahead and when the game starts up, well, we're used to using ofstream, which is input file, okay? So when we input from a stream, I have a string variable called value, okay? And all I'm doing is, well, get file, and I'm calling it my file, scores.txt. We input value, and I say scores.sc loop is string the integer, because again, there's that function again. We use that when we imported the when we imported the field. Remember we did that? Except the field, we were importing lots of data. We were importing, what, 1200 times 800 integers, so we're loading about 1,000,000 bytes of integer data. We're just loading 5 here. So we're going, so there's only 5 rows in the file. Here's what the file looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're just writing that. So what we have to do is we have to get the scores into our array before we actually play the game. And one thing that get scores does, it also displays them. So if I was to go back to line 600 after we created all those, go back up here, not 600, but right after we create, I actually had this commented out because I wanted you to see what it looked like without that being there. But get scores should get the contents of the scores.txt file, okay, and then display it on the screen. So if that's the case, let's just hack it, right? Let's say 1775, and then let's say 1400, and let's say 900, and let's say 200. Somebody is a bad player, okay? And we're going to save this, all right? And now I'm going to close it. So that's scores.txt. Now let's compile this with this one change and see what we get. And I bet, well, I'm actually hoping and praying that those numbers that we just plugged in that text file, because I haven't actually tried it that way, show up over here. Lo and behold, okay, my score is 0, my level is 1. I have 100% field. Let me put in my name. All right, and I'm going to say done. And we're 52 minutes into the video, so this is the first hour of class. I know this is probably a little mind-numbing. The field is loading. So how do I get to 900 points to get on there? So I have 100 points. Nothing's changed in high scores, right? Now, if I hurry up and cut this sharp, I can save some field, and that will help me in my high score. That didn't help a whole lot. Okay, what did I have? 985? Oh, I just beat out the high score. Okay, now let's go back out here and look at our file. 900 was 0. See how it bumped 900 down, put 985 in. That was a real-time update to this file. Kind of cool, huh? Really small little bits of data we can do this on. Okay, so we're going to go down here, go down here, go down here. Don't hit it. Okay, here. Ah! Okay, and I win that level. And so now I got 2,400 points, and now I'm in first place. You see how in one level I took over the world and I beat all the other high scores. Now, if we had a certificate in this game that a World Wide Web server would recognize, and we actually had it in our code, we could actually go out on the web and look in a global repository of high scores with names and some other data like that. We could actually put the actual name of the player in the file if we wanted to when we updated it. And that's what I was thinking about. But that's going to be a supplement because I knew I couldn't cover all this in an hour. So guys, I've got about 5 hours in this lesson, easy. Oh, I'm going to run out of gas. Oh, I knew it. That gas can is just, you have to hit it just right. But because I'm disposing of all my gas cans, or okay, let's see if I can do this. Let me focus. This is the end of it here, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go over. That looks good. That looks good. And let me go. Oh, you dog! Oh, I got lucky. Come close to the rock. As you will notice, this is the field out of the 3D paint. And now I've got the true high score of 3,312 points. And if I hit OK, then you'll notice that level's going to go back to 1. And obviously my score, remember I said I had to push the score out there? And the moment I get the gas can, of course, the score updates. So that tells me the score did update. But I have to push that score out there. But then, so 3,312 is the high score now. So if I quit at this point in time, and now let's say I run it again. It should say 3,312 is still the high score. And 3,312 is still the high score. So there it is. 3 levels, a game that takes your name. It tells you what level you're on. It has a limiting factor, tells you how much fuel you have, makes you deviate your behavior to earn points, keeps score, keeps track of high score. Guys, this was the goal of this semester, was for us to be able to write an entire game that had multiple levels that you could control with objects and gas cans. I mean, just this is like the simplest, dumbest game in the world, but you guys can take this and do anything with this. And there's more I want to do with it. I'm probably going to keep playing with it on my own. I might publish a few more supplemental videos. But essentially, this is the April 21st lecture. Let me go over what's due in the homework. Okay. This homework is due April 27th, which is our last class day. I might do one supplement on this. I may not, but this is typically my last lecture. If you have any questions, again, call me, text me into GroupMe, or let's do a Skype. Some of you are not at level 14. If you get it in a little bit after 427, that's fine, but I don't want to run this all out past, probably past Mother's Day, but I would like, so see if the bug fixes will help you. Add new variables and window handles to support high score. Add the code that allows the game to start and restart. Okay, if you don't have an end of game, then you really don't have a high score. You can just play until you're tired of playing, and it's kind of an endurance thing. If you guys want to add more fields, you can. You can take the existing fields and just move gas cans around. There's a lot of different things you can do if you want to make the high scores different. I'm more than interested to see what you guys come up with. Be aware again that there is that alternate field out there that's out 3D, made out of Paint 3D, so it's just a different look and feel. Update. Remember how we adjusted the core to the update code, the update score function to adjust in the high scores. Make sure place is set. That's a new variable, new concept. That's some pretty easy code, but it took a lot for me to make it work correctly. I had to keep going back and testing it. Test harnessed, console code, probably would have saved me an hour or so on that if I would just start in console mode. Um, a lot of big changes. Don't do what I did. Um, so I just did this right on top of class 113, and this is actually class 114 in this project. I did not make so I could not do the changes live in front of you and fight bugs and stuff like that. I think that's making things kind of long and drawn out. I hope I didn't miss anything. I think I got everything though. Um, so adjust the score, write the function and move the scores from the array to the screen and display scores. So again, that code is there. It's a cut paste unless you can put your high. You can actually put your high scores anywhere you want. You can actually move your flag down and you can put your scores up here. However you want to rearrange the screen, show me some liberty on that. That's all up to you guys. Um, Now, save scores and get scores. Just remember that get scores has to be there. Um, Work on max tries and minimizing points after multiple tries. That's a leftover from last week. So that's the assignment. Um, Last major lecture of the semester. There might be one other delivery on some stuff, but I'll see what I feel like doing and see what the questions are like on this. I might do a supplement on this. But again, thank you guys. If there's nothing else left, just go ahead and get your work done. Go ahead and turn this thing in, and I will grade it. If you have any questions, we'll group me, we'll Skype. You'll turn in your code, whatever it needs to be. And once everything's done and turned in, I can tell your parents you're done. Basically, if you get it working to this level on level 14 and all the functions working, um, I would like you to turn in the intermediate stuff so I know that you've walked through the steps. Okay? And I want to make sure you have a solid base. And if I see any code that looks like it's a copy and paste from somebody else, and um, uh, that's up to you. But basically, um, you update your heading label. I need to fix that. Final. I typoed final. Final car race. So we've built a game, guys. All the key functions of a game. You guys can do it. You can go ahead and finish up Godzilla, Bray, and go ahead and finish up your Knifeman, Benjamin. But whatever you guys are going to do, go ahead and do it. And it's been a great year. So thank you all. And we'll talk to you later. Bye. And that's the end.